I hope you guys are Prince fans because this is a really, really good friend of mine, and I've known him for years. And he wrote this amazing book years ago, Prince, and not many years ago, Prince and the Purple Rain Era Studio Sessions, 1982, 1983. This is actually the expanded edition, which he let me grace the back cover. I'm so happy that I'm actually on the back cover. It's because I love him so. Anyways,
I like how you did that.
He's a again, and he's got a brand new book, which I have actually on display behind me that we're going to give away at some point tonight. I'm gonna give away a book tonight to a Funkatopia, but it's a brand new book, and his brand new book is called Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times Era Studio Sessions, 1985 and 1986. It is an incredible book, and I got done reading it actually just today, and I actually sent this picture to him showcasing all of the earmarks that I have in this book, and he was just like, you can't do that. You're gonna read the whole book tonight. I was like, no. So I had to pick little pieces. But ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the amazing, my good friend, Mr. Duane Tudahl is in the house. How are you, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Can you
hear me?
Doing good. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Fine.
Now, a lot of people don't know that I've just met you today, and I didn't hear what was happening before, but I want to make sure everybody knows we've never actually talked.
So good to finally meet you, Duane.
Or know each other. Yeah. Thank you, man. This is exciting. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so thank you.
Yeah, man. I think the last time we saw each other wasn't on your birthday, or did we see each other?
I think I saw the rest of that week, but just so everybody knows what happened at the last celebration that was that happened is it happened to be the week of my birthday, and I was kind of it was just busy time, and I had to go and get something to eat, and I thought I want to get something to eat with somebody, but everybody was busy, and I went all the way down to Bloomington I had to deliver something to somebody, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go to a Denny's or something like that. And I'm walking in and I hear, "Hey, birthday boy." And I look over and it's you. And you're like, "What are you doing here?" And I told him it was my birthday. And he said, "You should not have birthday by yourself." And we went over to a nice place next door and we had dinner. Although you just watched me eat dinner because you'd already eaten. So there's nothing more awkward than eating in front of somebody.
I had dessert. I ordered dessert.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And yes, but thank you very much. It was a great time. It actually made my birthday. So I will never forget that. That was really nice. So thank you.
And what's funny is that I got to the thank you section of the back of this newest book, and it said, "Thank you to Chris for Funkatopia. Thanks for the birthday dinner," in parentheses.
Forever grateful.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
So good to see you, man. And let me just say that for those who have not picked up this first book is absolutely amazing. You still get paid for sales of this, right?
I hope.
Right.
Yeah. So the first book, and this is actually an expanded edition. So the expanded edition is only in paperback, though. But
right. Just so you know, people understand, the expanded edition came because the first book came out, and when I wrote the first book, not a lot of people knew what I was doing. So there were certain people that didn't talk to me or didn't know what to say. And when they saw the first book, they read it and they went, "Oh, I get it now." And so people that I didn't interview before came out and started talking to me. People that had talked to me said, "Oh, I can add to that story." So and I know more about this song or these songs that nobody had ever heard. And so I got about 30 more pages in the book of information of songs, dates, things like that. So the paperback was that, and it was a kick. It took about a year to do. And the publisher didn't ask for that. I just thought, I've got this extra information. I'd like to get it out to the people. It could either sit on my shelf, or I could do something with it. And I thought, well, you know what? Let's get it out there. And so the second book, I don't picture me doing that with, because the second book is already 700 pages, and I don't want the lawsuits of people hurting their backs and things like that from having to lift this book. You know,
we had that story. I was telling Duane on his first book. The first book was so amazing, and I actually brought it. We went on a cruise. It was one of the first things that I ever done. I had never been on a full cruise or whatever. Went on a cruise, and I said, "I'm bringing this with me because I can imagine that cruising in the middle of an ocean reading this book was going to be magic." And it became quickly obvious to me that carrying around a book this size was a little much. So I ended up getting the Kindle version. So I bought another copy. And then the expanded edition came out, so I bought that, and I was just like, so by the time all was said and done, I had bought your first book 4 times.
Yeah, I should have owed you dinner, really.
It was so great, and the thing I like about and I mean, I love the hard copy. I love the feel of holding a book and reading a book like that. There's something to be said for actually turning pages and things. But I mean, the benefit of having a Kindle version, obviously, is that it was like, oh, where did Brown Mark say that, or where did this say that?
Yeah.
And you can actually search the entire text, and it just takes you right there. So, so that was good. And but
I mean, there's an index. There's an index in the back, but it doesn't. It's not like you're going to be able to look up. But where did Brown Mark say this one quote? You know, and I use quotes from interviews you've done and stuff like this. You know, so there's a lot of things in there. And if people look through it, they'll see that the index is pretty extensive. But the reason why I do that is because I want people who did the work, the research, the podcast, the radio shows, to get the attention that they deserve. I mean, I really want, if you guys did the work, you guys should get the credit. And so I'm happy to make sure I shine a little light on what everybody else is doing. We had a great community of podcasters and radio shows and people that are just interested. And I don't know if the Prince community is rare about that, but what I can understand from what I see is we just have an amazing community of family that really is interested in this and wants to get the truth out there, wants to get the stories out there, and wants to extend his legacy. And I'm sure there's, that's an important thing. And I don't think a lot of other artists have that. There's some, but I think the Prince community is very special, and we kind of all know each other after a while and seem to like each other, which is even nicer, Yeah,
I was just happened to look over here and see all these fantastic comments here. Alfonso Stars in the house said, "What's up, Duane?" He said,
"We had a great time the other day. Alfonso and I had a great time the other day. So thank you, sir."
So thank you for Days of Wild virtual experience on Zoom. That was awesome. We got Chad's in the house saying hello, and
Chad,
Stacy and Jerry, and of course our good Cammy, who's actually a producer of the show. Because whenever we need to find details, she runs and goes and get it. So if we come up with any stumpers, she's our girl. So she'll
great. I love that.
Yeah, Dave in the house. There was one comment that made me laugh. I wasn't laughing at what you were saying, but Rodney said, "Who is this guy with all this product placement?"
Pow.
Well done. That's how it's done.
That's our good friend Rodney. That's our good friend Rodney. As a matter of fact, it was the first time. That was actually the first time I actually got an opportunity to meet you. Was at one of his pancake parties at Perkins.
Yes, I was probably right before I got kicked out. Yes,
that's right. And after I met you, I got in the car. I got in the car to go. I was like, all right, I guess I'm done, because it was 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, this was a late night.
I just said, I guess
you left early. You left early if you left at 2.
Well, I tried to leave early.
Okay.
And then I got in the car and I'm closing the door. And then all of a sudden I hear, and I look over at the window and it's Michael Dean at the window. And he's like, "Where are you going?"
You're coming back. Mm-hmm.
I guess nowhere. And he goes, "You got to come back in." I was like, "All right, I'll come back in." And he goes, "Besides that, you hadn't paid your bill."
You were trying to dine and dash. That's great. Oh, nice. Leave Rodney with the bill.
Yeah, so Rodney would have paid it, but I guarantee you he would have tracked me down.
Rodney is a great guy. I love Rodney. Rodney and sometime I'll say about Rodney and I staying up late till dawn, basically, with a bottle of tequila. True story. But yeah, the cool thing to me about the community is there's so many people that I get along with and so many people that are friends. And if you go up to Celebration, first off, please go. And second off, go to the events, go to all the dances, go to the pancake dinner, pancake breakfast. You will not regret the friends that you meet, and they last a lifetime. And this is the best thing about this is, you have 75 to 80% in common with everybody in the room. And they start playing a song, everybody's up and everybody's enjoying it and sweating together. And I don't know if we're going to be hugging as much with COVID, but I tell you, those times, by the end of the week, I'm wiped out. I need another week off
Yeah,
But it's
that
so
first
good, so.
celebration was like unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was just, it's just the camaraderie of all those people.
Absolutely.
And I think it was the first time I'd ever been out in public, in one of the events where it's like a Prince gathering. And so it's like from the second that I walked in, it was like, even Rob experienced a little bit of it when we went up there just recently for the anniversary of his passing to do the candlelight vigil stuff. We were in the airport and people were like, "Hey, it's Mr. Christopher," and Rob, who hasn't been on the show that long, they were like, "Hey, what's going on, Rob?" And Rob was like,
Rob's got groupies. That's amazing. That's great. It's fantastic.
Like the whole entire time it was like pulling women off of him. It was insane.
But seriously, if you guys get a chance, anybody who's watching this, if you haven't been there, try to go to Celebration, and it is so fun. It is the best time. Any event. Also, the other time is the PRN alumni does events up there sometimes.
Oh yeah,
and they're great too. Go to those. It's just anytime you get a chance to be around people that have the same interests and passion you have, it's renewing. It's absolutely renewing, and I just want to make sure everybody understands it. I didn't get it at first, and then when I finally went, I was like, "This is my family, my dysfunctional family," and I love it. I absolutely love it.
We are the strays of the world for sure.
The island of misfit toys, and it's great to be around a bunch of other people that feel exactly the same way I do on so many levels. It's just it's very. I keep saying renewing, but it really is. So,
as everybody say, Stacy said, put Duane's URL up on the screen. Everybody needs to own both books, and I just put up the URL for the brand new book. You need to pre-order. It comes out July 10th. I'm not sorry, June 10th. Yes. And actually have a copy behind me. This is what I was telling you about, but I have two copies that are actually physically coming. Both are signed. One I ordered that is signed. There it is. See, it's floating. It's telling you. It's right there. You guys want a picture of it? There it is right there.
Does it cost extra to get the floating one?
Yes, it's $1 extra. Totally worth it, though.
I'll pay it.
That's the book.
That's a conversation starter.
Yes, absolutely.
and Ender.
And so April says, Duane from Tampa, pre-order. Everybody's pre-ordering the book. Please make sure that you go and you pick up the book. And once again, I'll put the URL up there. I'm going to keep the URL fresh in the mix because it is an amazing book. And I just got done with it this afternoon. I only had like 100 pages to go like 2 days ago, but it was like just trying to juggle everything. And I finally got it done today. And I was like, this is amazing. It was so good, so well written. And it was like lightning in a bottle struck twice. It's just unbelievable. And it was phenomenal. So anyways, we got
All right, well, good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you very much for coming.
I'm out of here.
I didn't even get to say what I had to say about it.
Rob, you actually had a few questions for you had a few questions for him, and so I'll let you go ahead and just start with some of the general questions. And then we're going to get into some of the little tidbits that I had earmarked, just some to kind of expand on a little bit. But go ahead, Rob.
So I guess one of the first things I want to ask is, and this is a question that somebody actually posted, is this going to be available on Audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably my guess is sometime in August, September, October. Around
okay.
They had to get, the reason why they had to get the full version of the book, and that only got delivered in mid-April. And so I think it was all the details of that. From what I understand, they're probably going to be using the same person that did the audio for the first book.
Okay.
Ron Butler, I think his name is, and he also did Morris Day's book. So he does a lot of these things. But yeah, that'll be coming out. I'm guessing right around then. So yeah, I'm excited about that. So what I wish could have happened is I wish there could be an audio book with the actual music on it, but that's not going to happen. But wouldn't that be cool? That'd be really cool.
The actual excerpts of the people reading the quotes and whatever.
Yeah, that would be great too. But some of these things came out of magazines, so I don't know what I do then. So but it's I always like the audiobook. But the tricky thing is, it's not really written for an audiobook.
No,
because you got the details. Studio 3, and it gets if you're just hearing somebody say that after a while, you're like, oh yeah, you got to know every detail every day. When you're reading it, you kind of jump over that, and but it's important information. But you just kind of you don't have to know Studio 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. and it's good information to research, but to hear it over and over, it's a long audiobook. Well, 700 pages. The last one was like 18 hours or something like that, or something like that.
That's how long.
Wow.
So this one might be 19 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, because the last one was about 550 pages, right?
Yeah. So I mean that includes the index and thank yous, and trust me, my thank you section is epic. I try to make sure everybody gets thanked. Because so there's so many people out there that help me with transcription, that help me with research, that help me with so many things, and I mean, I've worked on projects before where I didn't get thanked or didn't recognized, and you're going, I worked really hard, but I want people who worked really hard to understand that I'm grateful. I mean, because people are so helpful with if I have a question or whether I need some the transcripts, overseen, it saves me weeks of time and it gets the book out faster. And it's sometimes it's kind of fun. I mean, the people tell me they enjoy going through some of these interviews because what I do is I find all the interviews that are on podcasts and radio shows, and I have them transcribed because I want to make sure I'm getting what they're saying. Because sometimes you guys get people I didn't get to interview or get quotes that I didn't get, and I'm totally fine with wherever I get the quotes. If it's one of your radio shows or if it's a magazine or something like that, I will credit it. But I want to, if it's a great quote, it's a great quote, and it's information I want to put in there. So I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I was mentioning to you earlier when we were talking before the show. I was telling you I've got to get you some interviews that I've done with Ingrid Chavez for the
Absolutely
next book, because when I sat down with her, nobody had sat down with her previously for whatever reason. And so I really got to her really. I mean, I got to ask her some pretty serious questions. I was asking her, how did it feel to be, single-handedly kind of responsible for Prince not releasing the Black Album?
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, I hadn't really thought of that. It's kind of, and then it was funny because somebody else, another podcast actually got her like a month later and asked her the same question. And I'm like, really? Well, at least it's date stamped.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's only a certain amount of questions people have, and so they get repeated. I'm sure when I talk to everybody, I ask the same questions that everybody else has.
Yeah, and I'm going to get you. I just got to get you all the transcription.
I would love that. First of all, Ingrid's great. I adore Ingrid. I've spent a little time with her. The very first time I got to tour Paisley Park was with Ingrid, and there was something really fun about standing in the Purple Rain and Graffiti Bridge areas and seeing her on the monitor as she's standing next to me. So it's like she's really sweet. I absolutely adore her. So
when you think about like the new book as it stands, there's a lot of people because I saw that Ronnie here asked, did Sheila E. contribute? And it's kind of interesting when you look at the book as a whole. There's a lot of contributions in this new book specifically. I mean, there's a lot of contributions from Susan Rogers and Eric Leeds. They provide like a huge chunk of what you read in this book because very, very frankly, they were massive part of that process. As in regards to this, maybe the most audio that you yourself interviewed as opposed to who you were pulling from magazines and stuff?
That's a great question. Nice one right off the bat. Nice. There's several that were exceptional for me. Susanna Melvoin was a complete dream to talk to. She was always available for updates and things. Susan Rogers was incredible. Eric Leeds, obviously, he's just so informed about all this stuff. Let me think about that. I would say those. Peggy McCreary was also great, but I've interviewed her I've known Peggy for about 25 years, so we've had many sessions on this. One of the most fun things is being able to interview the Revolution in their entirety, each one at some point, and getting to talk to Wendy and Lisa in detail about things and going through hours and hours of stuff. That I'm so in their debt for wanting to have the truth out here with this stuff. That's an incredible thing for me to have them be interested in this. That's the other thing is I don't ever consider this book to be about me. It's about Prince, and these people understand that it's about his story. I try to get out of the way as much as possible. If you notice, most of the book is quotes as much as possible. And I just step back and kind of let people talk. And what's fun is sometimes they'll start a story and then another person will jump in and then another person will jump in. And so you get the story being told through several people. That is a thrill for me. The whole Madhouse section from Eric Lee's talking about that. And Todd Harriman, who was he worked on the Fairlight there, but finding engineers and band members and things like that talked. One of the coolest things for me was talking to Apollonia. She had introduced me to Susan Moonsey. And so Susan Moonsey talked to me for a little bit on things. And so there's a quote in there from her and information. And that kind of stuff, Susan doesn't talk to anybody. And so that she would, jump in on this and be happy to do this. What a nice person. Seriously, what a nice person. Apollonia was very sweet about that. Jill Jones was amazing. I don't even know where to begin. There's just, I feel like if I'm going to forget somebody because so many people were just available for additional questions. Eddie M. I would be texting him saying, did you sing on this song? Or things like that. But the question I saw was, did Sheila participate in this? And I asked Sheila and she said no. She declined to do it, but she has enough quotes out there and she has an autobiography. So I was able to find quotes about most of the situations from her through the interviews she's done in different places. And it's unfortunate because I think Sheila is really represented well in this. She has a lot to do with, there's several people that I think really influenced the sound. Sheila is undeniably one of those people that really influenced the sound. Eric Leeds was another one. I would say Wendy and Lisa completely. I'm talking about this era. But there are certain people that you can look at and see when they got introduced to him, his music bent a little bit. He was always the decider. Prince was always going to be the one making the decisions, but he was open to influences with, like I said, bringing Eric in and that kind of stuff, or bringing Claire Fisher, that kind of stuff. I think he enjoyed when somebody brought something in that he may not have visualized, but he thought, how can I incorporate that into my music and make my music better? I think that that's something I don't think people understand is a guy that could do everything himself. Really, literally. He didn't play sax. He tried, didn't do what Claire Fisher did, but he mostly could go in the studio and just come out with the Beautiful Ones or something like that.
And you mentioned that he didn't play sax. However, there is a thing in that book there where he apparently was trying to play sax.
Yes.
And he what was that
Jill Jones was saying on one of the songs that he was trying to play sax, and she was saying the sax was as big as him. She's going, hurt, 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 hurt. And she said it was an image she'll never forget. And I thought that was just charming. But
actually, did he use that part too? Didn't they use whatever?
I think so. Yeah.
I can't remember what song it was. I'll look it up. But yeah,
he looked that up.
Yeah, or it's in the book though. We'll let you guys find it. But
it's that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is fun, and I think that Paul Peterson was great. Levi Seaster was great. There's so many people that were very available and very open to talking. And the nice thing is getting all of Apollonia 6, all the Revolution, almost all the Family, that kind of stuff. It's
the Revolution is amazing. This is,
my God,
I've showed this picture to you before.
Hey, look at that.
You've asked me, you're like, what's the story there? You're like, with all of the Revolution. And I'm just like, well, this was actually at the Revolution show in Atlanta at the Tabernacle. And
Nice.
This was a backstage thing that it was to get all of them in one place is just like this. I'm going to treasure this.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. That makes sense. It's a great shot.
Oh yeah.
Down in front though, dude, down in front.
Yeah. I should have sat down on my knees or something.
He's
not
used
worthy,
to being
not worthy.
He's used to being the front man, so he kind of can't help it.
That's what they wanted me to.
That's great. That's a great picture. That's a great picture.
In front. So it was like,
okay. One of the things that I didn't get a chance to get through it. I just got a copy last night, and I got about 130 pages in it. But what really struck me, and I didn't read the first one, and I'll be perfectly honest. When I know, right? I'm like, Chris described it to me, and he says very detailed, and I thought, well, that sounds like reading. It sounds like reading an encyclopedia,
instruction manual or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that doesn't sound like fun.
Sell it well.
But I gotta tell you,
a cure for insomnia,
right? But I gotta tell you, and I've read a lot of like other like music books, like Hammer of the Gods and stuff like that.
That's a good book,
yeah, it is a good book, but it's totally different, completely different. What I really loved about this book and what amazed me was, whose dog is that?
My dog's just telling me how rough it is to read.
I know, right?
Very rough,
very rough to do a long book.
I was amazed at how well you maintained a narrative with all of those quotes and the detail that you had in there. At no point did I feel like, oh, this is reading. At no point did I feel like this is reading an encyclopedia. It really felt like I was reading a story, and it was very detailed. I was amazed at how you managed to keep a story going through the whole thing, and I was curious as to what your process is to make that come together in the way you did, because it's really well done.
On the back of the book, it says, "At no point did this book seem like it was reading an encyclopedia." That's the that's the praise quote.
You quoted me?
It was Rodney Fitzgerald's quote.
It was. I'll give you some background about myself. I made documentaries for a living. Worked in TV and reality TV for 30 years, and you get to a point where you understand how to tell a story, and you're looking for a word or a phrase that either gets repeated or that builds on something, that you can start a sentence, end it with this. So I kind of thought about this as a documentary, just going into it thinking, how can I tell this story as if it's a documentary, and these people are telling the story. So that's where I went. I mean, there's things like at the end of April or beginning of May of '85, there's talking about how many people were in this area doing stuff. And I think it was Paul Peterson had a quote where he's saying it's like there was a big parade of people going in and out of here. The next day, he's assembling the parade album. So it's like that kind of stuff that you're finding those links to what's being said. And it's sort of, I mean, I don't know how to say this, but it's a bit like Tetris in some ways, where you're trying to fit all these pieces in, but it's also like poetry, where you're trying to find a way to reveal what you can and hint things. And when you get to the end of the book, you'll notice, you could look back and you go, all the things kind of pay off, all the little struggles they had kind of, they build and they come to a conclusion at times. And I think that's an important part of telling a story, is you have to make sure you can look back. It's like a mystery novel or a mystery movie. If you watch it and you're thinking, I don't know who did it, but you get to the end, you go, oh, now I see all the clues. And I think that's the way it should be with a book. You should have the cool thing about a book like this, at least for me, is you can look up your birthday and you go, oh, what happened on my birthday? Oh, this is what happened on my birthday. Fantastic. And or you could read it literally from beginning to end, and it's a literal story. It is a story that has a beginning, middle, and end. And I think it's pretty satisfying. And when you look at it, it's the interesting thing to me is it's not. The first book ended very on an upbeat, like this is a celebration, and the second book doesn't. The second book is kind of a, I don't say downer, but it's a contemplative part where he's a little hurt. I don't want to give away too much, but he's at a point where he's about to release Sign of the Times. It's going to be released a few months later, but he's at a lull and he's not sure about certain things. His band is gone. He is turned in something to Warner Brothers, Crystal Ball, and Warner Brothers turned it down. And he's breaking up with his fiancée, or she's breaking up with him. That a lot of that hits you at the holidays, and that's a big time. And I think that's part of the thing. It's somebody has two people have said something that this is like The Empire Strikes Back, where at the end of that, Han is in carbonite and they're standing there, and Luke has one hand, and they're just going, "Oh my God, what the hell are we gonna do?" Or like the end of Godfather Part 2, where Fredo just gets shot, and you're just going, "Oh my God, how did I get out of this one?" that's sort of where this is. It's I didn't want to invent a happy conclusion, because it isn't there at this date. At the date that it's ending, it's not, there's no fireworks going off. And I think that's an important thing to explain to people, because I know that you want to end it on a high note. You want to end it on that, but I also didn't want to artificially create something.
I think, you were talking about everything
really captured it.
Going through with, everything that he was going through with the, all the things that you mentioned, but on top of that, it was just, he was in this mode where, the music was coming to him so fast and furiously that he couldn't, there's a couple things that we're going to talk about here, because we're going to talk about some little tidbits and whatnot throughout the book. But some of when the music would come to him, he would have to get in the studio like immediately just to get it out of his system. And what was interesting, one of the things that, I was in the book, is that they were talking about that, you were talking about how the whole entire song would come to him, like all the parts would be there in his head. And for him, he just had to go in the studio, lay down one part, then start it over, and then lay down and like for instance, Crystal Ball was a perfect example of the most convoluted song that you probably could ever hear.
Yes.
So many different moving parts and so many changes and so many different sections, but he had all of that even in all of its insanity, he had all of it in his head. So he sat down and literally recorded one part after another. Even with all those changes in place, there wasn't a whole bunch of, he would never Frankenstein something together. It came out as one beast in one long piece, and then he would just add the layers to it as he was hearing it in his head. And that to me is just, it takes a very, very special individual. And we obviously know that as Prince fans, that he was above and beyond any musician ever, the way that he could process music. But I think that so much of that was going on that he just kind of pushed everybody away, and nobody, either they couldn't keep up with him and his work ethic, or he didn't have time to have personal relationships, even though he wanted to. He needed that to kind of get him through that period of his life. But the music was just so overwhelming that he couldn't let anybody get close to him.
I think there's a battle that goes on in people like that, where he wasn't always the most social person. I mean, most people around him will say that. In fact, if you read the foreword by Elton John, the first thing he says, Elton John walks up to Prince, first time he meets him, says, "Hi, I'm Elton John." And Prince just goes and walks off. And you're like, you don't walk off from Elton John. You don't do that. It's Sir Elton John. What are you thinking?
Sir Elton John.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you don't do that, but Prince did that. And Elton John was like, okay, I forgive Prince because he's so creative and shy probably. But I think there's a battle in him at times because if you're going to do 3 songs in a day, which he did, you'll see a lot of examples in the book of him doing 2 or 3 songs in a day. You have to be feeding this machine. And it comes to you with not just what you're experiencing, but what other people are bringing to this. I mean, you look at songs like in the first book, Happy Birthday, Mr. Christian. It's a story that was based on a story Apollonia gave him. So she participated in how the creating of that song. Look at in this book, you got Starfish and Coffee from Susanna Melvoin, story that she brought to him. But I think that he had to have some relationships with people to feed that. But there was a limit. And he's like, okay, great. And now I work. Okay, input, output. And I think that was a constant battle with him. There's stories where I think one made it in the book that Susan Rogers said that he would bring people, like meet a girl in a club and bring her back and be inspired to write a song, not the one you're thinking. I know that's another story you're thinking. Not that story. It's a different one. But she sits in the studio with him, watching him record because he's inspired by her. And he's recording a song, But after about 8 hours of sitting there, she's like, I gotta go for work. And so that is, I think, and he would be oblivious to it. He'd be like, no, this is my focus now. And even there's a story in there about the recording of Empty Room. And Empty Room was recorded after there was a wedding party for Bobby and Vicky Rivkin. And they were
weird story.
Yeah, they got married, and they had a celebration at the wedding. And they got married before, but there was a celebration. And Prince was there, and he was fighting with Susanna. And he calls everybody in the studio. He says, okay, we're going to go. That's great. We're glad we're having this thing here, but let's go record a song. And he recorded this song for Susanna. It was from his heart, and he was inspired. And he thought, I have to do this now. This is how he was. And I wasn't there, but this is the stories people tell me. When you realize he was so focused and so committed to his music that he would stop a joyful party. There's a celebration of somebody's marriage. And everybody went back with them to the studio, and they all had a good time. But you're still going, wow, you just that's you think how focused he was on making music. And when you look at the fact he's got 40 years of this stuff and stacks and stacks and stacks. You look at the Sign of the Times Deluxe, Super Deluxe that came out, it's got 3 CDs of songs that most people didn't even know existed.
Right.
I mean, some Prince fans knew some of them, but even still, there's surprises on there. Even those diehard fans are finding surprises on these things. That's how much he has worked on, and I'm hoping that comes across.
Yeah, and the story that Duane's referring to is as he kind of gave some of the general is that Bobby Z, the drummer for Revolution, and Vicky got married, and obviously Prince was at the wedding. He adored Vicky. And they were at the wedding, and of course they had the reception, and everybody's having a great time. And Prince is just he's all of a sudden he's got this song in his head. And for those of you who have heard Empty Room is a very sad, very solemn song, and he just insists that everybody goes back to the studio with him. And of course, Wendy is very pissed off about the whole thing. She says it very, very bluntly, and there's really, we're here for Bobby and Vicky's wedding, and you're saying everybody come over to the studio, and then he kind of brings them in, and he starts playing this really sad song called Empty Room. But Bobby and Vicky actually sat there, right, and were actually appreciative that he brought them into that moment. But at the same time, everybody else was kind of looking at it like you just interrupted a reception and brought everybody over to kind of bring the mood down. And
this is one of the things that's amazing about Bobby and Vicky is, first off, Prince did adore Vicky. From everything I've heard, he absolutely, and if you know Vicky, you understand why she's amazing. Wonderful. And Bobby was his best friend, and so to him, probably this was okay, this is typical of what I'm used to. I love listening to both of them talk, and I was fortunate that both of them want to speak to this, but it's fun hearing their side of all this stuff. And when you said Wendy was upset, one of the things I love about Wendy in this book is how outspoken she is,
blunt.
And yeah, she's really blunt. And but that's what I think that's probably what Prince enjoyed about her, is that you knew exactly where you stood with her, and you knew you're going to get unvarnished commentary. And there's times that I'm laughing going, oh man, it's just, but it's the variety of all the different people and all the different voices that sort of lend this to this. Somebody, Susan Rogers had said something one time, and she said that not the obligation, but she feels her obligation to talk about Prince right now is because he's no longer here, but we can put these pieces together, and you kind of all these dust mites, and you can kind of get a little figure of what he is. You'll never have him back, but you can get toward the truth with all these people telling their stories and all these different pieces coming together. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's nobody's obligation to talk at all, but she feels it's important for her to talk and explain what she understood. And she is so articulate about how she felt about Prince and the fact that she didn't want to deify him, didn't want to make him into something he wasn't. He was a man with an incredible skill who worked hard for that skill and surrounded himself with people who felt the same way. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, and I know that, there's a lot of dynamics, well, obviously with Lisa being in the band as long as she was in the band,
Right.
longer than Wendy, but Wendy was she was very, very blunt in this book, but she was always very, very blunt. I think she just kind of called it like she kind of saw it. And the whole thing with Wendy and Lisa and them being cut loose because they essentially had asked for more money. But there seems to be like two sides to everything. And again, this is covered in the book, but Wendy and Lisa were basically making about $800 a week. They were players in the Revolution, the biggest band at that time. Prince was making millions and millions, and basically the players in the band were essentially contracted, essentially a lot of them. But Wendy and Lisa were essentially making about $800 a week for being in the biggest band on the planet.
And not just being in the band, but actively being contributors to his stuff. He would send them stuff and say, add to this. And they would spend, and I put several of the sessions that they did that it was just them that he'd say, add whatever you can. And they would build on the songs. And sometimes he'd accept this layer and this layer and this layer. Other times he'd accept it all and say, that's fantastic. I want to keep that. So
I think that kind of dynamic though is just, and you're right, because and I've seen some people in here that were talking about why do you keep, there's one specific person that's in here that's like, why do you guys keep talking about the Melvins, blah blah blah. Let's be real clear. Wendy's contribution to what they were doing, because there were plenty of times, yes, Prince was alone in the studio, but there was plenty of times where he took the songs, he took the music, and he gave it to Wendy or he gave it to Lisa, and he says, or he gave it to Eric Leeds. There were specific people that he trusted, very, very hardcore trusted.
And Sheila too. Sheila
said, do something with this.
Right.
And he did it with Brown Mark too, with Kiss and certain things like that.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that the other thing to think about is, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm writing about the era that they were there. Right. There's other eras that other people were involved in. My era that I'm writing about for these two books is the Revolution. So I'm going to be talking about Wendy and Lisa, Bobby, Matt, Mark. That's the way it is. They are the players in this. And it's changing. The interesting thing, there's a really fascinating insight when talking about The Flesh. And The Flesh was, if you understand, The Flesh was a jazz kind of thing he was putting together in the end of 85 and the beginning of 86. And it was mostly Sheila, Eric, Levi, Wendy, Lisa, and maybe some other people here and there. But those are the core of the people doing The Flesh. And it was pointed out to me that this is the beginning of 86. The Revolution was still active. But that it ended up being more of an audition. And if you look at it like that, you realize, oh, Wendy and Lisa didn't end up lasting the year. But Wendy, Levi, and Eric all ended up being in the next band. And you're going, oh my gosh, I didn't quite see that in context until I look at it as a whole. And that stuff is fascinating to me, is when you start to see events that pay off later is what I like about this kind of thing. Being able to look at a calendar and say, oh, it happened in this order. And that's interesting to me.
And you kind of spoke a little bit about, some of the other albums, because obviously for those of you just joining us on the radio, sorry, we've been talking a lot and we haven't been doing a little bit of middle of introductions or whatever. But I am with the amazing Duane
They can't see that on the radio, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's all right. But I'll read it. For those who are listening on the radio show, which is broadcast all around the world, just like this is too, if you're watching the video. If you want to watch the video, you absolutely can. You can take care, you definitely get the visuals as well. But we know that there's hundreds of listeners on the radio station that for whatever reason are driving or whatever. Or speaking with Duane Tudahl, author of his brand new book, Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times era studio sessions, 1985 and 1986. He's been on our show before a couple times for his previous book, Prince and the Purple Rain era studio sessions, 1982 and 83. And when we did the album chat for Purple Rain, I had him on the show and we went and did the album chats. You obviously know, that's our thing. We've been doing a lot of those, but I actually had Duane come on and do the album chat for Purple Rain with me. And we went through all the songs with all the backgrounds of all the songs. And that was a lot of fun. We had a great time, but it's so great to have you on. and promoting your new book, which comes out June 10th.
Yes.
For those who have not pre-ordered it, get it. I've put up the link a few times here, so that you can make sure that you go get it and go and pre-order it ASAP.
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it pretty much any bookstore you like. And as I say, you can also get it at the bookstores you don't like as well. And here you go to my website, which is Duane Tudahl, DuaneTudahl.com. If you want to get a signed copy, I will sign it and I'll personalize it if you want. Trust me, some of the personalizations are odd. And yeah, and I'm happy to do them regardless. So you know, go in there if you want to get it personalized. I'm happy to do it. But they will be shipped as in the order that they were purchased, and I'm going to start shipping those probably in about a week and a half, right around the time that the book actually comes out. I will start shipping them, but I can only do a certain amount a day, so it'll be, you know, get them out as fast as I can. But I'm happy to sign, you know, any book that you want to get. So thank you.
So we got some, and Rob, I know you still got some questions, and we still haven't got to the tidbits and everything. But I hear some people saying, don't give away any spoilers. So I'm going to skip over some stuff.
It is a 700-page book.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Even if we sat here until midnight, I still wouldn't be able to cover everything that you have here.
Right. There's no way we could give away too much.
Yeah. So, Patty says, so appreciate you gathering your stories from the people who were here. Thank you for doing the work, Duane.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Patty.
But there are some questions here, but I want to, you know, get some praise out of the way. So like your talk, all those people, yeah, it's obviously great.
I feel trust me, I feel very lucky and very fortunate to talk to them. And they're very, almost across the board, they're all very sweet. And even though, here's the thing, even though Sheila didn't work with Sheila on this book, I've worked with Sheila in the past. I directed a video for a concert she did, the Family Jam show years ago. And so I've dealt with her. She's very nice, and we always had a very nice time. So it wasn't that there was anything there. It's just that I don't think she wanted to talk to somebody about this stuff. And she's also writing a book. I know she's writing a second book. I've heard that she's writing a second book about backstage stuff. And I think so. That's her book. So that's great. And I can't wait to read it. I'll be first in line. I'll be butting in line to get in line for that. Get out of my way.
Well, I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go see Sheila here in Atlanta on
nice.
July 9th, I think it is. And I've actually managed to get front row tickets. It was a seat.
Nice.
I got it right when it went on sale, and I guess they didn't announce it, and I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So I'll be sitting. So I'm hoping to get some time with her. But if you can't do it, then I certainly don't stand a chance.
She does interviews, but just not with me. So, you know. Didn't Prince play saxophone? I don't know if he played saxophone in high school for a short time. The only thing I know is the story Jill had talked about in the book that she says that he was playing. I'll have to look that one up. But she was saying he played sax on one of her songs. So that's the only. The bass solo, wow, that would probably be Prince. I'm guessing.
Prince. Yeah.
I'm guessing that would be Prince because I think that song is mostly Prince and Sheila.
Can you just do the line and just give me this? I believe is how it goes.
Which actually you even pointed out in your book where, you know, where people would say he would just come up and just take the instrument from them. I can't remember who it was. He was like, here, let me show you how to play that. And everybody was like, okay.
Yeah, and that's got to be tough when you know your boss can play anything as well as you or better, and you're going, oh, okay. Right. I think the thing that people forget is it's not always fun being in his band, I imagine, when you know that you're going to be drilled and drilled and drilled to make it as good as possible. And even when you get a concert going well, like the Purple Rain tour, you end up every night he's thinking, oh, you know, I'll change that. I'll drop this song. I'll add a new song. I wrote a song last night. Let's rehearse that. And you're going, oh my God, I can't just relax because that's the way it is. He's going to keep pushing it. So his concert on the first day of the tour and the concert on the last day of the tour have some similarities, but they will be very different shows with different songs and different emotions. And I think that's something that makes the rest of us want to hear every concert he does. You know, right. I don't imagine there's a lot of people that go to shows that are the same show every time and want to hear every different show. Right. With Prince, you know you're going to get something different, whether it's a turnaround or a new song, or even him in the long jam throwing in lyrics for Blue Limousine. That's just what he's going to do. And he does that because he can. Right. Bottom line, yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get your personal email address here, obviously, but if people
Oh,
wanted
sure. You want my personal email address? Absolutely. And my address, yes.
if people wanted to reach
And your
you
phone number,
Absolutely.
projects,
Let's
where was
see.
you at?
Well, here, Barry, if you reach out to me on Facebook. Reach out to me on Facebook.
Yeah, just
Facebook. Look me up on Facebook. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm happy to help out whenever I can, but let me know and on Facebook.
Roddy says, with COVID restrictions lifting, will you be doing book signings?
I was going to be doing them with COVID in full force. I didn't care, man.
And when he opens the book, he's going to be licking each page.
You did say some of that personalization was a little weird.
Exactly,
so, okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I
would like to do book signings. I would like to. I'm hoping I can get up to Minneapolis sometime and do some book signings. I hope to do some in Los Angeles, maybe in Denver. The last book I did some signings in Vegas and LA and a few other places, and they're fun. They're a lot of fun. And do you get into the evolution of Wally? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I talk about that. The Wally part, I won't give too much away, obviously, but for that I interviewed Susan Rogers, Wally, and Susanna Melvoin talking about all the different parts of that. And it's fascinating to hear. I mean, a lot of people have heard the stories of Wally, but in context of where it is in the book, it makes sense. It fits in a perfect pocket where it happens in the book. And the book sort of almost ends with Wally. And that's a big thing.
Yep.
How do you plan to reach non-Prince fans? Megaphones is a big one. A whiteboard that I'm walking up and down the street with. That kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm word of mouth.
The hell out of a sign. He can
What's
spin
that?
He can spin the hell out of a sign. I've seen him on a corner doing this thing with
arrow to my book signing. Word of mouth is really the big thing. I'm hoping it just got reviewed in Rolling Stone in Germany.
5 stars, ladies and gentlemen.
I got 5 stars, so I was really happy. Thank you. And I'm hoping the word of mouth. I'm hoping because Elton John is involved with this. I mean, he wrote a forward. He's not involved with it, but he wrote a forward. I'm hoping that people will notice that, and I'm hoping that opens a few doors. Because to me, I want to make sure that the word of Prince's accomplishments gets out there. It's not just something I want Prince fans to read. I wrote it in a way that I hope it's entertaining for everybody. I'll give you an example. My wife is a Prince fan, but she considers herself more of a Prince widow because I'm kind of really into this, and she's like, okay, I'm glad. It's funny. I'll go up to her with interesting facts about this stuff, and after a while she'll say, "I'm glad you have friends to talk to about this," And so, but she's very good. But she read the book and she cried at the end, and she said it was very touching in certain parts. She's like my proofreader, and she tells me when things make sense, or when somebody needs more introduction. Sometimes you go, I don't know who this person is. Can you tell me who this person is? And that's really helpful to have the eyes and ears of somebody who is a fan, but not somebody who's a Prince nerd like the three of us are. It's very easy to get completely just wrapped in the Prince nerd part and not understand that other people will want to maybe embrace this. Somebody said to me recently that this should be in a book for producers and engineers and people that are starting bands, so they understand what's involved with doing it like this. So, right. Stacy, what does Stacy say? If they're smart, which they're not, Hollywood will wait until Duane has finished publishing books for all Prince eras. Before they produce them. Well, that's flattering, but no, I don't think they'll wait for that. No, it's as wonderful as that would be. Also, I don't know if I can do all the eras. I'm in my mid-50s, and these things take about 3 years to do each one. And I wear arm things because I've destroyed my arms from here to here.
Rob, do you have yours on right now?
There you are. You understand? I have tendonitis from here to here. And I always have them right next to my.
Yeah.
And I'm writing constantly. So, it's bad. But you know what? I love doing it. So I'm going to keep doing it. So, let's see. Andy, love the depth of the PR Sessions book and look forward to the new book. If ever write about
the Kevin Smith Rainbow Children.
Oh.
I was there and got to ask Prince questions.
Oh, nice. That's good to know.
So make sure that you bookmark Andy, because if he was there, he actually may be able to answer some questions.
Andy, reach out to me on Facebook, Andy. Please do. That's kind of cool. That's really good. I love that. That's a big one. Wouldn't you love to see that documentary? I was talking to somebody the other day about how I'd love to see that. There's a 3121 documentary that he did, I guess, and there's I would love to see all those things. That's just me, Oh
yeah, there's so much stuff here.
Thank you.
Well, I'm looking for the next question. Rob, we were talking. One of the questions that you had was about Elton John. Go ahead and go read that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I started reading that introduction, and initially I didn't realize that it was the foreword by Elton John. I thought it was you talking about it, and I was like, well, yeah, if I went up to him, of course he would do the same thing to me. And then when I got to the end,
you're like, Elton John.
It was Elton John. Right. I was amazed. And I guess I'm so curious now how Elton John became a part of this project. How did that come about?
Well, I had him over for dinner one night. No, I'm just kidding. I was it's total coincidence. He did a fundraiser last year on TV for the WHO when COVID was starting. Right. And I was sitting there with my wife and I said, wow, wouldn't it be cool if Elton John wrote the forward? And we laughed about that because no, he would never do that. And the next day, a friend of mine, Matthew Bitone, many people know who he is. He's a Prince fan. He's also worked on the artwork for a lot of big things, but the many Prince albums and stuff. Prince, the upcoming Welcome to America. He's done the artwork for that and things like that. And he's doing the Quincy Jones box set. But he's this guy that's very connected to people. And he called me out of the blue and said, how would you feel about Elton John doing your forward? And I was like, that's weird because I was just talking about that last night. And he said, well, let's work on that. And so that was March of last year. We got Elton the book in September, and he read it and apparently liked it. And then he said, I'll do the forward for it. And then we said we have to have it by December, and nothing. And then middle of December, nothing. And then end of December, nothing. In January, I was like, oh gosh, I don't have a plan B. And if it came out without a forward, I was like, okay, well, that's the way it's going to be. And then I woke up one morning and Matthew had sent me a email with the forward in it. And I read it and I started crying because it's the kind of forward that can only be written by somebody of that stature. When you read it, it is truly written by a peer. And that's the most charming thing. It's by a peer who accepted Prince for what he was. I mean, he says, yeah, we kind of, he invited me on stage, and I'm like going, oh yeah, okay. Prince doesn't do that with a lot of people. Right. And it's a fun, really charming thing. And that's where it came from is Matthew Bitone, who I've known for about 30 years. And I was incredibly fortunate. I've never met Elton, never talked to him. It's always been through. So I would love to thank him in person if he tours. I would go to the show and I'd ask to meet him and stuff like that and give him a signed book. But he was first off, I've been an Elton John fan my whole life. One of the first albums I got was like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which is pretty much a flawless album. And his stretch of the 70s was really about as good as it reminds me of Prince's stretch in the 80s. It's just great album after great after great after. You can't go wrong with any of this stuff. And his greatest hits package, you go, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about that. And he's got so many great songs. So having him involved in this is incredible. I don't know what I'll do for this third book. If I'm like, where do you go? There's like 5 people on the planet that could possibly be on that level. And I'm like, I'm like going, okay, Springsteen,
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder's one I really would love to have. I saw Prince's play with Stevie Wonder in May of 2011 at the Forum, and it was great. It was great. So that would be a great one. I interviewed Stevie for a documentary I worked on before, and so that'd be fun. There's Paul McCartney.
Would love to have
Mick Jagger. There's not a lot up in that stratosphere, and so it would be. I don't know where I go from this, so I'm open to suggestions. So please.
It'd be amazing. I don't think she's. I think she's not in good health, but it'd be amazing to have Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell would be great. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Question here: was there anything challenging or difficult in making this book? Yes, every day.
Yeah.
Every day, making a book.
There's been plenty of times that I would just try to get Duane on the phone just to say, "Hey man, what's going on?" I was like, "I can't talk right now."
I'm writing, and I'll tell you, it's a 24/7 thing. You every day, every weekend, every night. It's and it's 250,000 words in this book, and I was supposed to only give them 175,000, and I looked and counted. I was like, oh no, and so I've overdone it. and so they really wanted a book that's about 400 pages or so, and I was like.
But just for this, you would have to split it up into 85.
And my wife had told me I should split it up in 2 books, and I thought, well, they're still gonna have to buy 2 books. It's not like they buy just one. It is probably more expensive to make 2 separate books. But also 85 doesn't end with a big finale. 86 does, and that's the thing that I wanted to have it be a natural out.
Right.
So what's this? Paul has said, as a fan, I never understood exactly how or why so many of his vault songs ended up on bootlegs. I read that he would make tapes for the bandmates or friends. Did you discover the specific reasons for this while you're doing your research? Now, I've heard several stories to this. One of the stories you hear is that he would listen to him on the way home, and if he didn't like the song, he'd throw it out the window. So there's supposedly near this bridge up there that he would just throw, not graffiti bridge, but some other bridge, tape bridge. And he would just throw this stuff out the window, and that would be one thing. He would leave it in the car, though. He would leave it in the car. Supposedly people washing his car would take it out, like if they were doing that. Not his people that work for him, but he also would give it to friends. I mean, if he liked something, he gave it to somebody. Here, impress a woman, whatever it was. Here's a tape. He would also submit tapes to Warner Brothers, so they might be circulating within Warner Brothers. There's a lot of places that tapes could go out. You notice there's not as many tapes in the later years, and I don't know what the reason is on that. But that's where the earlier stuff. I mean, the later stuff was really more on digital. I guess that's So there wasn't as much of an option to that. But the tapes, and then what I try to do in the book is every session that I know that there's a tape dubbed. I try to list what tapes are dubbed, as a TDK C60, and what's kind of fun is I've had people come up to me afterwards, fans that have gotten the actual tape, and they show me, here's a picture of this tape, and it is a C60. And I'm like, that's kind of cool, when you can actually see that,
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but you are actually in an official capacity with the estate and I guess Paisley Park, I guess. So tell people a little bit about your title and what you do there and how some of that benefits and just marries really well with what, the creation of this book.
It's how do I explain this? I'm the senior researcher for the Prince estate and also a producer for them. But I really do keep the 2 jobs separate. My book is one thing and my job is another thing. My obligation is to my job. And I have an agreement with them. If I find something in the vault as we're archiving it and it's unknown, I don't talk about it. If it's talked about, if somebody knows about it and talks about it, that's another thing. But if it's something that I get information from exclusively from the vault, they're not paying me to write a book. It's like if you work for KFC, you're not supposed to go talking about what the 7 secret ingredients are. That's just life. What I do is I work with a great team who is involved of very passionate people who I think that the releases that the estate has done over the past few years are just spectacular. The Sign of the Times box set to me is incredible. The 1999 box set is just
behind me right here.
And they're great. And it's a team of people, a small team of people that I adore or are committed. And they're kind of people that stay up late at night wanting to make sure it's accurate. And I'm a small part of that. Trust me, I'm just a small part of this. But that's really the big thing is I really kind of keep the 2 things separate just because I don't want anybody to think I'm, crossing over or things like that. And
some type of bleed over. I mean, you have there has to be some type of bleed over, right? I mean, you have to be thinking to yourself. I mean, you have a specific knowledge about let's just talk about the one of the songs that sticks out in my head that I really want to hear is a song called She Pony that's in here. Have you, being that you're one of the archivists with the estate, have you heard, did you physically?
It's not like I just go in and say, I'd like to hear this. It's not like that.
Can you? Could you? Could you just go and say, I'm going to take a break?
I don't, that's not really my job. That's not really my job. My job is I know it seems like that would be the best thing. And I'm not going to lie. I enjoy my job. I know. I'm not going to say that, but I will tell you I do take it very seriously, the difference between what my book is and what my job is, because I really want to make sure that I'd like to do this job for years and I'd like to keep working on books for years. The reason why I was hired was because my first book came out. My first book came out and they saw my first book and they said, wait, this guy's already doing what we want. These guys are already archiving this stuff with the book. And they went to the vault and they looked at it and they said, oh, wait, this is accurate to what he's saying. It's actually accurate in the vault. And so they brought me aboard because I'd already done 20 some odd years of research on this. And trust me, there's people out there that blow my mind when it comes to knowledge of stuff, because I have a lot of people I talk to. I'm going, I don't even know how you know that stuff. But I was at the right place, at the right time, and wrote a book. But I really, really, really make sure that there's a clear line between what I do at work and what I write about.
So that all being said, when I think back of the first book, and I think about the details that you had about how many cassettes were recorded and how many this, that, and the other. They're actually, Rob, in one of those images that I have uploaded, there's actually a screen capture. I think it may be of like I think it's the one that's 01-AAA.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
The second image in that folder, that photos folder that I gave you. So you can get certain details. You can get certain details from documentation that's in here.
I'll tell you where I get a lot of details, so you understand.
And I know that guys like Eric Leeds, not to interrupt you, but guys like Eric Leeds and Wally Safford, those guys are like walking
encyclopedias.
There was the last celebration that I was at, or maybe it was 2 celebrations ago. I was sitting in a hotel lobby because we were staying at the same hotel, and it was Wally and I, and we were sitting in a hotel lobby. You can just imagine that discussion. And we were sitting there for about over an hour, and the details, the level of details that he remembers about the specific day. You could say, hey, where were you on January such and such of 1987? He's like, oh, I remember that day. That's amazing.
Yes. This is the deal. Is the people, the first line of information was the work orders. The work orders from Sunset Sound that we're not seeing. That would be, it talks about the date, the studio, who was involved, what song, if it's written, whether Prince was there because he signs it, the time, and also the amount of tapes and things like that. Half-inch tapes. If you see a half-inch tape, there's a mix done. If you see a 2-inch tape, there was a full new song done. So it's those kind of things. You start putting the pieces together. Then you talk to band members. Eric Leeds, who kept a journal of what he did, Susan Rogers, and they remember this stuff. And you listen to music with them. Then there's the music that circulates among collectors and things like that. There's things like that. On top of that, then you have places like Prince Vault, which has a lot of great information. First off, every author uses Prince Vault, and the ones that don't list it are lying. I'm telling you, they all do. And because they're so good, Prince Vault is the place to go for information on the internet with Prince. And they update it all the time, and they're fantastic. And good people on top of that. And they do it for free. So you can't go wrong with that. The next thing I did was I went to the unions. Go to the union in Minnesota, go to the union out here, and they list who worked on what days and what times. So that helps you realize, okay, Sheila was there, Eric was here, and all the people that were in the unions have to log their hours during that. Then I went to the Library of Congress, and I went there and spent a day or two there where they gave me the dates and let me hear songs that were there listed there that are unreleased. Then that you get the idea. It's those kind of things. Then I go back to the people and say, this doesn't make sense. Can you walk me through this? And sometimes we'll find some new information by just doing that. And then you start listening to, okay, there's 3 or 4 versions of the song circulating. Well, this one now has orchestra. Okay, let me go to Claire Fisher, and I interviewed Claire Fisher, talk to Brent Fisher, his son. They give me the dates for the things they did. So it's those kind of things. There you go. Joy and repetition. Yeah. Great one. And you get an idea.
I'll just get it myself.
Yeah, you get an idea. I'll take
Dude,
care of that.
You literally put it up like minutes before we went on the air.
So you look at this and you get the idea of what this is a very detailed work order, but some are not quite this detailed. You go and find the union notes, or you find everything. Some people kept very accurate diaries or journals of this stuff. Some people don't. There's even sometimes at the bottom of the thing, it'll say what they had for lunch, and that's kind of, you go, oh, they went to, this waffles, this place. So it's fun, to put all the pieces together. And when they start to click, you realize, oh, okay, great. And again, you go back to the same person and you ask them a follow-up question and say, could this be accurate? And they'll say, yeah, it could, or not. And there's times it contradicts. I mean, there's times that I have things that don't make sense. And I will list both people talking about it, saying, I remember it this day and somebody else remembers it that day. Okay, well, that's what I've got. And that's part of it. That's the big part. And then you start to put it together and you start to squeeze it, because there's things that just will be squeezed out you don't need or get repetitive, and you want to make it entertaining. And that's where it's a lot of work. So when you're asking, are there days? That's the day. That's what is involved. And then you got to remember everything. I have a document that is about 2,000, maybe 2,500 pages. That is all the songs of Prince, information I know about each one of them, quotes about each one, and in different colors. Prince is in a different color than other people. All the big events in his life, quotes about those, meeting Sheila leaving the band, meeting Eric leaving the band the first time, whatever it is, all these things. So when I go into this, when I'm starting to write, I'll look for those quotes in my research. And it's an all consuming, and every interview that comes out, whether it's, a podcast or a magazine, I will look at it, log it, and put it into this thing as much as I can. And that's, around this time of year, from April till June, is insane with the interviews and everything like that. So it's a lot of work, but you know what? It's really satisfying, because I'm able to understand a little bit about this and bring something back to it and pay back for all I've gotten from not only Prince, but people surrounding him, because they put a lot of their heart into it too.
Yeah, I can't even. I mean, the process of being able to take all that information and all those details and be able to put them in not only a type of chronological order, because there's so many pieces, because a song may have been recorded on one day, but then he comes back and the edit is a couple days later, or he makes a 12-inch version or a dance version a couple days later after that. And, then the album is released, but then they still want to make a single version of this song. It's just to be able to take all that stuff, put it in some type of consumable order is just.
Well, it's like I'm Purple Rain Man.
That's exactly what you are. That's it.
I like it.
Purple Rain Man.
Purple Rain Man. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. But again, I try to remember all this stuff I can, but I have other people I talk to, and they'll remind me of things. And because you can only keep so much in your head, if there's times I get to the end of the book and I'll start back at the beginning. I'll get to a point and go, oh, that's a neat little piece of information. Oh, wait, I wrote that, and so you kind of have flushed it out. Because you can't keep everything in and still remember everybody's name. That's just how it is. Right. But I have to admit, I wrote the books because I wanted to read the books. They're books I wanted to read. And so when I read them with some distance, I'm enjoying them. I go back and read the first book and I'm like, hey, this is kind of fun. I had one time I was driving and I thought, I think I've figured something out with this one area at the end of November of '86. And I was like, I quickly wrote on my phone this sentence or two that was just chicken scratch. And I thought, oh my God, I got this done. I ran back to my computer as soon as I got home and I was like, I got to put this in the book. This is revelation. This solves everything. and I go to look at that page, and I'd already written that. I'd written it months earlier, and I totally forgot it. And it was like, ugh.
That's the worst.
I go to sleep at night dreaming of puzzles. And because I'm always trying to find how these pieces fit. And so I lose a lot of sleep when I'm doing this stuff. And so I want to have a day or two off if I can. Can I do that?
Yeah. Okay,
thank you.
I'm all about it.
Thank you.
Rodney said, and we're going to start doing the tidbits here in just a second here, because I want to go over some tidbits before we have to let you go. Rodney says, can we get a documentary of Per Nielsen and yourself with the inner workings of Uptown magazine?
Uptown was honestly the coolest magazine to work on, because it was, for those who know it, it is a Prince magazine. And Pierre ran it. Pierre is the guy, so people know he's out of Sweden. And I've known Pierre since 1990, and 89 or 90. And is fascinating guy, great guy. He's a big fan of Prince and Bowie, which I am a big fan of Prince and David Bowie. He's written books about both of them, but his books about Prince are considered to be some of the best books about Prince. It's The Vault and DMSR, two fantastic books. I helped him work on both those with some research. I didn't write them, but I helped with the research on them. But he's a great guy. The funny thing is, I've known him for 30 some odd years, and I've spoken to him once. Literally heard his voice once when I called him in the middle of the night and woke him up when I was trying to fax something to him. And his fax machine picked up. He's like, "What?" in a Swedish accent. And that's what he said. "I'm tired. I can't do my Swedish accent." That's what he said. But he was a great guy. And we still, to this day, we still talk every few weeks on email. And he read the book. He enjoyed the book. And I would love to work on something, whether it's a documentary of something or even a book with him. I mean, I think it'd be cool if he and I worked on a book together. That would be fun. Would people buy it? I hope so. Yeah.
Aaron just asked, will this book be on audiobook as well? We answered that question, Aaron. Yeah, and it will be. We don't know when we're coming out, but who is it gonna? Oh, Per Nielsen.
Yes.
Can you ask him next time you talk to him, will he ever reprint this book? Because the only way that you can get any of his
books, $800 now, I know,
is to pay somebody $800 to give up their copy on or DMSR. So if you go to any bookstore or you can find a Per Nielsen book in a used bookstore, get it and get it quick, because you can resell The Vault.
That'd be your retirement plan if you could buy it. Yes, exactly. I would love to see it. I would love to see it reprinted. I have asked him about that, and I think he said the rights are owned by the publisher, and so he can't. I don't think the publisher understands how valuable that book is, and how people would really enjoy reading it. And I also think that Pierre burnt out from work, because he was writing nonstop on this stuff, and I think he got to the point where he's like, I'm done. And I would love to see him do the second book of that, because his first book was up to 87. I want to see him do 87, 88 to, next decade. Because his first book, DMSR, was called The First Decade. And I was like, I want to see the second decade and the third decade.
Yeah.
As many decades as you can.
Well, like Questlove said in the foreword of your first book, he is looking forward to the day when he can have a bookshelf that's full of just the Duane Tudahl books. Whatever.
Those are all
very similar to that.
Yes.
Very similar to that with all the obviously. Yes. All right. So now we're going to talk about some of the tidbits from the book. And it's been, again, we're talking with Duane Tudahl, author of Prince and the Purple Rain Era Studio Sessions, 1982 and 93. And we're talking about his first book, which, if you're watching the video on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, he has got a floating book that is Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times Era Studio Sessions, 1985 and 1986. It originally was, I believe the original title of the book was Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times in Madhouse 8 and Sheila.
Yeah, this title was long enough. It was a Era Studio Session. It's funny because originally when I did the first book, it was Purple Rain Era, and after that came out, people said, well, it was also the Around the World a Day era. And I was like, I'm so glad I just got it in as the Purple Rain era, because I wanted to do just this one as the Sign of the Times era. But then I realized people say, where's the Parade era? And so we had to go into, thank you, Rodney. Yes, I'm about the sun's about to hit me. Bad. That's not too bad, is it?
That's right.
Right.
But yeah, so I was glad I got the I was able to do Parade and Sign of the Times. It's a long title. It doesn't roll off of anybody's tongue, and I sometimes have to actually read the title. Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times era studio sessions, 1985 and 1986. And like a knucklehead, I added dates to the end of it. So everybody can go. So to make it more complicated, there's a mathematical equation at the end of it.
When they change it to a website address, it's like it's pretty long URL.
It's insane, and it wasn't. I was trying to think of a clever title. Originally, I thought maybe I'll use Days of Wild or some sort of title that. But I was like, you know what, I wanted to do more books, and I knew I wanted to make sure people could know exactly how to get the books going. So, in order.
Let's talk about some tidbits from the newest book.
Okay.
The first tidbit we're going to talk about is obviously we're going to be talking about Sheila E. Mm-hmm. Sheila E. has quite a bit of a story in here, but some of the things I find fascinating about Sheila E. is the fact that she was on the Purple Rain tour.
Yes.
And I don't know how many total shows was that on the Purple Rain tour?
There was like 97. It was like almost 100. It was right around. It was either just below or just above 100, right around there.
So here is this woman. She's on the biggest tour of that decade. I don't know that any tour was bigger than that one.
Victory tour might have been bigger. I don't know, but it was still at the same time they were both going. And I think that you're not going to get too much bigger than the Purple Rain tour.
Right. Yeah. So. And so she gets done, and she is a very, very active member of this, and she does
opening act.
Opening act of the Purple Rain tour. Both Rob and I were there. Rob actually had seats behind the stage, and he had gum in his mouth, and he took the gum out of his mouth and he threw it down, and it landed inside of Prince's bathtub.
I didn't have to throw it. I just dropped it. It was the bathtub was literally right.
He dropped it, and when
that's not in the book. That's not in the book.
And then when he went to go get in the tub for that scene during the tour, Prince looked in the tub and he saw the piece of gum and he grabbed it and threw it out.
I don't know for sure that that's what happened, but he did look in the tub. Reached down, picked up something, and tossed it.
Nice.
This is what happens when you're 16, and you don't have anything to keep. 16 ADD, don't have anything to keep those ideas out of your head.
Anyways,
yeah, that was.
I'm trying to keep the sun out of my face. By the way, I'm trying to keep the sun out of my face somehow.
That's right. So anyways,
it was great to read that book and then see each show. And it was like, I saw the show that was that Sunday night show in January. And I was like, hey, I was there. No mention of the gum. That's good. Good.
I was there also. I was at 3 of those 5 nights at Omni in Atlanta.
Nice.
But I didn't throw any gum. I just enjoyed the show.
You're a good fan. You're a good fan.
All that
much
being,
better than I am.
All that.
You're going to ask about Sheila's what happened at the end of the tour.
Yes, what happened at the end of the tour is that Sheila goes to her. We're just going to kind of create a little bit of a visual here. She goes to her bank account, and she finds out she's $1 million in debt.
Mm-hmm. What happened was, and this is in her autobiography, she thought that a lot of the things that she was asking for were paid for on other tours. Makeup and food and things like that. She'd ask for extra costumes and things like this. She thought all that stuff would be taken care of. And at the end, they kind of gave her a bill because they were all saying, yes, ma'am, absolutely happy to help you out. And then to find out that it wasn't was a bit jarring for her. So the next year, she was really working hard to kind of pay off that debt. But I think that Morris had the same thing. I'm going to back my chair up a little bit here. This might help a little bit. Hey, look at that.
I got the impression from reading the book that there were other musicians in the band had similar thoughts as well, not to the extent that Sheila had, but felt like they weren't getting their fair share.
Well, and these are again quotes from the people. Mark Brown was saying that he was told that you'll never have to work again after this tour is over, And then he gets a check for $10,000 or $15,000 at the end of the show or the end of the tour. It's like, wait a second, this is nothing. I mean, I'm already not working for much, and it's understandable. You were on the biggest tour, like you said, of the year, and it's Prince's biggest tour ever. You expect to get something, and I think they were a little let down. And then Mark felt that was a 98 shows. Thank you, Stace. Okay, wow, Victory Tour 55 shows. Yeah.
So for those who are on the radio, we just put up a little stat that said Purple Rain had 98 shows to Victory's, the Jacksons Victory Tour 55 shows.
There you are, yeah.
Twice
as many shows. Anyway, but I think there's a lot of people, even like I said, Morris Day felt the same way after the 1999 tour. He's like, wait a second here. I was, your opening act, and we also played as the openers for Vanity,
right.
behind the scenes. And they didn't get much money. They literally were not paid much. I think part of the reason that I've explained about Prince's attitude about people is he wanted you there because you loved him and what the mission was, as opposed to being there for the money. And I think that was a big thing for him, is he wanted to know you cared for him, and not they were in the musicians union for certain things, but I don't know all the details about that, but there's probably a minimum they could get, and I don't know what the deal was when it came to live shows.
That minimum. I mean, yeah.
I don't know that. I know I've seen the information from that, but I don't know what the deal was when it came to minimums or requirements. So I don't know.
Another story that was told here, and again, I'm not going to go down a whole bunch of them, but there was some really good ones. The story about Prince going to the beach. Which was early in the thing. And apparently many people were not aware of this, but Prince had never been to a beach. And
that's him. And the picture of him is angry about he's never been to a beach right there. I have never been to a beach.
So it was the first time he had ever been to the beach. And of course they get to the beach and Jerome and Wally are just running and they're diving into the water and whatever. But Prince was asking like tons of questions. Is the salt going to hurt my eyes? Are the waves safe? And then Alan Leeds realized that Prince had never been to a beach before. He was completely out of his element. And it's actually a really well-told story. It's actually really, really funny. Page 81, for those who get the books, you want to write down.
The fun thing about that is it's actually had Prince in sandals going out on the beach. And I can't picture Prince in sandals going out on the beach. And but he got bored. He was there for a day. And he's like, okay, the next day, what are we doing? And they said, we're going to go back to the beach. He's like, been there, done that. And he flies home. So his vacation at the end of the Purple Rain tour was all of 2 days in Rio. And that's how hard he liked to work. He went back and started working on it immediately because he just had it in his blood. He had to work.
Yeah. And you're talking about the sandals thing. Another item in the book was Susanna had mentioned that he always wore tube socks to bed.
Yeah. And I think it's things like that I think are kind of cute. Yeah, but it's kind of cute to know that this is the thing with Prince is the image we got of Prince was what he wanted us to get. He wanted us to see him as this guy who never made mistakes. Somebody had said you don't ever see Prince with a glass of a drink and the straw not hitting his mouth, like he's never kind of trying to find it. He never trips, he never stumbles. Everything he did was perfect. He would practice by himself in front of the mirror, making sure his moves were fluid and perfect. Well, we didn't see the person that they got to see in the studio who was working and trying things and working on not perfection, but finding a way to make it as good as possible. And so it's
trying to catch him off guard. You couldn't even catch him off guard with things.
No, and that's
about the penguin.
Yeah, exactly. There's a story in there where they're trying to catch him going to sleep, and he would not let them win, whether it's in basketball or anything. He played for keeps, and he was great at what he did. And there's no denying that. But it's fun to hear the little details about what was going on in his life. And I try to make them so that they were all part of his music in the studio or a story about that, things that he would bring back to his music. I didn't want to write a book about bad habits or whatever it was. It was more, it's all done in reverence and respect for him and his career and legacy. But I wanted to make sure people knew that this guy's a person who would laugh and hurt and be sad at times, and also happy and joyful and creative and stubborn and a brat or anything like that anybody would be. If you were 25, 26, 27 years old and you have all the money you could ever want, odds are you're going to have a day or two where you do a bratty thing or do something that's not always nice. But that's part of how he processed things. And the people around him, the band members, when you play music with somebody, there's a trust. There's a language that you speak that you know if you go out on a limb, they're going to be there for you. So you rely on them. And there's a trust. The people in his circle were people that were involved with the music. And he had that. There's a story in there that's really charming. Long after Wendy and Lisa were no longer with the band, I think Lisa tells the story about meeting up with him years later at dinner. And the dinner was okay, but then they went into another. Prince said, "Come into this room." And he had all his instruments laid out. And he started saying, "Look at this instrument, try this." And they started playing together. And Lisa said, that's when it hit her that's how they love on each other. They love on each other through the music. And I thought that to me said so much about his relationship with them and his relationship with anybody. If they have that musical bond, he can be part of that, and he can talk. There's a section in the book where he talks about, wouldn't it be great to have a show called Drum Talk, where it's just a couple of drummers going, and like the drummers are talking back and forth with just drums. That's how he communicates with things. And that's his level, is that vibe. And music, like you said, I am music. And that's how he, I think, conducted most of his life, is dealing with people on the level of music. And I think that's when he could be open and be personable and be Prince,
Yeah, we were talking about, and I'll go to the next tidbit here, about Susan Rogers, who, we were talking about how music comes to him and how he processes it. But Susan Rogers was telling a story about how Prince asked her to start a tape, and he had already had specific songs in a specific order, and she started a tape, and he sat behind the drums, and he played the drum parts for Christopher Tracy's Parade. And then he paused after that was over. And then he immediately went into the drum part for New Position. And then after he was done going through the whole songs and all those changes and everything, then he stopped. And then he goes into I Wonder You. And then he pauses for a second, lets all the cymbals kind of ring out, and then he goes silent for a second. And then he starts into Under the Cherry
Moon. Exactly.
All 4 of those songs back to back to back, even considering when you think of those songs in your head and the tempos and the patterns and some of the complexities of some of those songs, it's just amazing that that's how he processed it. And he just went through all 4 of those songs back to back to back to back to back. And that is just, I mean, who honestly can do that?
It's crazy. It's crazy when you think about the fact that he could do that, in a sense that he can have those songs in his head with all the instruments in his head of what he's going to do, lay out the ins and outs, and this is all just sitting there, and they're watching him, and he's just saying, roll tape and don't stop. And 15 minutes of different, it's like a suite. He did a 4-part suite. And you just think, oh my God, who does that? Most bands would take 3 or 4 days getting the drum sound. He did 4 songs like that. And that's just the way he is. And I think
that was telling the story that worked with Prince and also Michael Jackson. And they were talking about the differences between the way
that was Jimmy Jam talked about that in the book.
Oh, yeah, so Jimmy Jam was talking about the fact that, Prince would go in and that's what he would do. Whereas Michael Jackson would come in and he would say, all right, can you turn the volume up on the hand claps? All right, make me a tape of that. And then he'd go and listen to it. Then he'd come back the next day and say, let's bring the hand claps down a little bit. So it would take him days just to process small parts, whereas Prince was just like, just go.
And I think the fun thing about Prince's music like that is it does have errors in it. It does have, people talk about it perfection. He's so good, it seems like it's perfection, but he knows the frequencies and the sounds and things, so that it makes it so that any sort of imperfections are hidden. He'll put a splash there, or he'll put a bass part there, or he'll go back and redo that bass part real quick. But it was about getting the vibe out there, and to be able to do 2 or 3 songs in a day. That's because he had a rush to get this stuff out there. And it wasn't that he's rushing and making it bad quality. He rushed because it was good and it was there. It was like, okay, I've got it to the point where I want it. And he'd record sometimes additional bass parts and other things, and then go, you know what? I don't need those. Delete, mute. And when you think about somebody doing all that stuff, and often by himself, that's crazy. The interesting thing I think to remember is, yes, he could do it all by himself, but if they're invited in the studio, whether it's Wendy or Lisa or Bobby or Jill in there doing vocals or whoever it is, he wanted them there for a reason. There's a purpose for them to be there. You didn't go into that room unless you had permission. You didn't stay in that room unless you continued having permission. That's when he had people on his music, he wanted them for a reason. There's a purpose for them being there, and he saw that. So there's a respect he had for the people that brought something to his music that either he didn't hear or didn't understand or wanted just to understand. Just blending DNAs in the studio would add to a song. For example, like Databank was a Brown Mark song, and he was recording it. It's his riff. Prince comes in, says, "Oh, let me join you with it." Starts playing. Bobby joins in. Wendy and Lisa join in. And all of a sudden the song becomes this thing that Prince might not have brought in because it was a riff based on Brown Mark stuff. That's how it worked, oftentimes. And again, this doesn't take anything away from Prince at all, because there clearly was nobody like him, nobody on that level, nobody before him, nobody like him, and he will not be replaced.
Right.
But the people he had around him, he wanted them for a certain reason. If you were on stage with him, whether you were Jerome and Wally, working on the parade tour, or whether you were just the Revolution, or you were anybody out there, there's a reason why he wanted you there on stage. And once you were done, you were excused. And that's how he worked. And I think this is, he wanted the people that would help his sound, help his music, help his evolution. And then once he got to the next point, he was like, okay, thank you. And I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
So
a couple little quick tidbits.
Yes.
Number 4, the Fairlight CMI keyboard. Now we've heard tons of stories about this instrument and how this keyboard was so instrumental in everything, because all the voices and everything and all the sound effects that he was able to use through it and all this stuff that was on there. What I did not know until I read this book was that this keyboard was
$70,000. Yes, exactly. It's crazy when you think about what he did with it. And the interesting thing is just I'll repeat the name of the book, just so you know: Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times era studio sessions, 1985-1986, coming out June 10th. It is the Fairlight is a very expensive keyboard. He said they brought in their own programmer and somebody who understood it, a guy named Todd Harriman.
Yes.
And Todd was with him for at least a year and would kind of say, you can do this with it. Here's a way you can do this. This is a noise you can make. It opened up what Prince could do. And a lot of the stuff he did for Sign of the Times used the Fairlight and Parade actually used the Fairlight. The keyboards he used before that were like the DX7, which he used a lot on the Family album and things like that. But every time he'd get a new instrument, it would increase what he could do. And he would experiment with, I get this sound. Let me try this. And he would be able to make different sounds, different layers of sounds, and not have to sample other things or not have to find the actual harp or banjo or whatever it is. He could just use these things and then they would, create the sounds he wanted in his head. And I think that's kind of the same way the Lindrum with him. He could all of a sudden make a Lindrum loop that would be something he wanted, and he'd play a little live drums on it to give a little life. That's what he would do. He could layer these things on top of each other and create a song fairly quickly. because he had all the tools and things like that. Now, Lisa apparently loved the Fairlight. She was excited about it. When they got it, she was ecstatic because this is her toy. This is her toy, and I think it's fun because he's a very keyboard heavy guy, but yet then he'd lay some killer bass over it, or then lay some killer guitar over it. And you're like, oh, what layer's the best? But he would have all these layers and he would know, now I bring this down, bring the drums up, bring the guitar up, and then put an explosion in there. Okay, I can't make these two pieces fit. Let's put an explosion over it. Okay, good.
Yeah,
that guy's
with Pop Life, there's that part in Pop Life where it stops and it's like ding, there's a bunch of chatter, rah, 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 it sounds like a light or whatever. That is a sound that came with that Fairlight. It's like
I don't know if that sound came. That was a sound effect thing. The throw the bomb out.
Patch of sounds and stuff in there.
Yeah, but he also would use sound effects. That he had the Sunset Sound had a library of sound effects records, and he would use those. And I went back in the first book and found some of the actual sound effects records and said, this is this sound effect from this record. And it's kind of fun. And on Sign of the Times, you'll hear that with the beginning of different songs, over here are the Boggins, those kind of things. Those are sound effects from the sound effects albums that were there at Student Sunset Sound.
And they still sell a lot of those sound effects albums too. There was one guy that did all this kind of funky, weird stuff as well. Here, I got a couple more of the tidbits.
I want to ask a question about the Fairlight though, because
sure.
In the book it says something about somebody going out and getting it for him. This was actually purchased or rented? That was my question.
I think it was purchased. Cubby Colby tells a story about being the guy that brought that in, and I think that was that I think they purchased it. But you got to remember, at the time, Prince was by that point making money. This was after or right around the time of the Purple Rain experience, so he had money coming in, and apparently he wasn't giving it to his band members. But I want to make sure I say something very important. Is yes, Prince may not have paid the band members much, but you come in and you're at this level, you leave and you're at that level. You are going to grow, and the amount of growth you're going to get as a musician working for Prince, you cannot put a price tag on, period. Second thing I want to make sure I mention is Prince's charity work was huge. He did a lot of concerts for people that would never go to a concert, children that are going through illness and things like this. It was so important for him that he would have his lyrics, somebody doing sign language on stage with his lyrics, because he wanted these kids to understand the music. So his generosity in many ways was extreme.
Yeah.
With the paying of the band members was not. They and righteously, I think they felt like, look, I'm a part of this. I deserve to be compensated. And I think that's fair. I don't think it's wrong to ask for the people that are around you that are supporting you to reap a little bit of what he got. So,
right.
But he was very generous and did a lot of shows for people that really could not, hard of hearing people and again, children that were sick and things like that. I think that's something that I want to make sure is understood in what he did. So,
yeah. That was actually one of the things that I was really surprised to see when I was reading the book about all the special concerts that he would do on those days off, or matinee shows or whatever. That was something that I had never known that he did, and I was it was exciting. It was so much. It made me really happy to see that part of him.
I agree. I think that two of the things that people don't always understand about Prince are the charity work he did with that stuff and his humor. And I think some of his humor comes off in the book is there's several stories in there that are just very funny, that I don't want to give away everything, but you're just going, he had a good sense of humor. And the people say around him said, oh yeah, the guy would make you laugh really hard. And I think that's kind of the fun thing about understanding this guy, that he would crack you up and would make people laugh. And so many of the people I interviewed talked about how when his hair was down and he's relaxed, he could be the funniest guy in the room, And again, a rich man's jokes are always funny, but but he would be very funny. I mean, and charming, and in a way that people would talk about. I think Matt Fink had said he could have been in movies doing Eddie Murphy stuff, and that funny, and that's I think something that Prince doesn't always let out. You see videos like Face Down, where he's playing the violin, and you see his legs going in, and you see this goofiness to the guy that he didn't always let out. And I think that's why that's one of my favorite videos, is because he wasn't trying to be the sexy guy that was reaching his hand out. He was just being a goofball,
Right.
and I think that is one of the endearing things about him. You see his face when he's playing the solo in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you just, it's that ugly face, and you're just going, oh, he's so into it, he doesn't care, or he's making the face on purpose. Whatever it is, it's endearing. And there's so many things about him that are endearing.
There was an article that was released just recently about that. They were talking about that was
ugly face.
The ugly face. Yeah. Morris Hayes had just talked about that, I think, on the 60 Minutes thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you agree. It's and you see it and you're like, oh yeah. He's really into that. And that's fun. I love that.
This next tidbit I don't have an image for, and I'm only going to do a couple more because I want to be respectful of your time, because I know you got some stuff going on tomorrow too. But I don't have an image for this one. But the song "I Wonder You" was a song to him from a fan. They were performing in Rio, and Jerome said that there was this fan that came up to him in Rio and was in broken English and said, "I wonder you, you're on my mind for all times." And he was able to find inspiration in that.
Right. And they weren't performing in Rio. I think it was during the vacation they were down there. And this girl had come up with a handwritten note, and I think handed it to Prince. This is according to Jerome's story. And that it was the lyrics basically for "I Wonder You." And, it's like, "I wonder you, you're on my mind," and just broken English. And Prince, again, was a sponge. And when something would go on like that, he would bring it and find a way to put that into his music. And I think there's a charm to the fact that you can see his life in many ways through his lyrics. His lyrics sort of are part of his expression. For a guy that didn't talk much, he was a guy that emoted and explained things very well in his lyrics. And actually, I'm going to be speaking about that tomorrow at the Prince Symposium. That's my thing. I think I saw somebody on here earlier, Arlene Oak, I think is also speaking at times. So I don't know if she's speaking tomorrow, but there's several people that are talking over this next few days. It's going to be kind of fun. So
tell us about the this. Well, we'll talk about the symposium at the end here, because I want to get details about that, so we can want to hear more stories they can. All right, well, I'll do a couple more here. This one, there are so many references to artists that he had worked with that never saw the light of day, or obviously just simply didn't happen. Being from Atlanta, I am a huge Mother's Finest fan.
Okay.
Joyce Kennedy is amazing. It was one of the greatest interviews that I ever got an opportunity for. Was to actually interview them. I actually got to interview both of them. They brought me into a room, and I was just supposed to interview them real quick. And then next thing I know, I guess there's some type of screen grab or something that Google did.
I was wondering what the heck was going on there, man.
I guess there was an image that was about to fade in, and that was a screen capture that Google got. But yeah, they brought me into a room, and I was just supposed to be a real quick 5-minute interview, and they wouldn't let me leave. I literally sat in there with Joyce and her husband, he's the other lead vocalist in Mother's Finest, and we were in there for an hour just talking, and it was like so freaking cool.
Wait, let me get this straight. An interview lasted longer than expected?
Yeah. Kind of like this one here, right?
I love it. Nice.
But we hear about this, and then there's
Is that you?
That is
That's
me.
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh,
that is
I've never seen you with a tie on. That's kind of nice.
And the soul patch, the beardless soul patch.
Nice.
Yeah, and the beanie or whatever. Yeah,
I like that.
That's kind of going back a little bit. But Prince had given Joyce a song, and he's given lots of love to Mother's Finest. He loved Mother's Finest, but I did not know. Because they redid "Baby Love" on that one night, not One Night Alone, the 21 Nights after show or whatever. Sure. They done it on that, but he gave her a song, and the song "Rough"
Right.
Which is actually this is that's actually going into but gave the song Rough and she didn't like it, which was this song here. But anyways, he gave her that song and she didn't, but she didn't like it, so he for whatever reason just gave it back to him. It was like that. It's just not a great Prince song. And the same thing happened with Joni Mitchell when he tried to give her Emotional Pump,
right?
And which was on actually the latest release as well, and also Dolly Parton. Parton. He wanted to work with Dolly Parton as well, and I don't know what specific song that he gave to her. I don't think that was mentioned. I think that was because that was kind of in the same range with Kenny Rogers or whatever.
Right.
But what do you think that is going through some of these people's minds when you have somebody who's at the height of the game like this, and you get these other people who are in some cases bigger than he is, like Dolly Parton, but they just feel like the song is not for them. It's trying to process. It's like, this is Prince giving you a song. It's like, whatever you think, you're obviously not on this level. Just do it. Do the song.
I think there's a lot of artists out there that say, this is not for me. I mean, I think Prince is a great example of when something's not for him. He didn't put it on his album. He had many great songs, but they didn't always make it on his album. Some would be B-sides, some don't get released at all. And you can hear that on the Sign of the Times box set. There's songs that you're going, this is a great song. Why didn't they actually using this? Well, because it didn't fit the narrative. Same way with Dolly Parton. He offered her Rescue Me, which is a song by Fontella Bass. That was he was doing a cover of it, which is interesting because he was doing a cover to get to Dolly Parton. And that's fascinating to me, is that he would want to get her a song that he didn't even write, but he loved the song enough. So he re-recorded it. The fun thing about when they re-recorded it, apparently he didn't remember all the details of the song. So I think they sent somebody out to go get the CD so he could hear it again. I think somebody told me that one. And he just loved the song. And he thought, this would be perfect for Dolly Parton. And it's interesting because I think he understood throughout most of his career that he has so much music and so many songs, he can't get them all out himself. So he has to create his own competition. He created The Time, created Vanity 6, created Apollonia 6, created The Family, created whatever it was, but he'd also then start giving songs away to Kenny Rogers, and Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton had just done a hit. So why not give another one to her? And Joni Mitchell was always like a hero to him musically. And he, was unabashedly fond of her music. And so he gave her Emotional Pump, and she was like, yeah, it's not quite for me. And that's an interesting thing is, to be able to say to somebody like Prince, it's not my kind of music, but it's still fascinating that he would write songs for these people. And I don't think Emotional Pump would be a good Joni Mitchell song personally. It does. It's like, I don't know where that would come in, but he in his head heard this as what it would be like for them. I mean, Miles Davis, doing Can I Play With You? Okay, that's an interesting take. But then Miles and all of them kind of felt like, well, maybe that's not the thing. The interesting thing to me is that Miles wanted him to produce an album. Miles Davis went to Prince and said, can you produce an album for me? And Prince was like, I don't know. I don't really want to be telling you what to do. And it's like, no, Eric Leeds said to Prince, he wants you to tell him what to do. He wants you to share what that is. And Prince is like, no, I can't tell Miles what to do. I can't do that. It's Miles Davis, the hero.
Interesting about Miles Davis is that, really, in all honesty, I mean, Miles is a genius. We all know
absolutely
everything. He's but everything.
Even my dog agrees. You heard that? My dog.
Everything that he did with Prince really was. I mean, I love Miles Davis, but really, in all honesty, it really was kind of underwhelming, to be totally honest. It just because it wasn't that Miles Davis genius. Like, even with Can I Play With You, it's just kind of bleats and blaps and this, that, and the other. And even Eric Leeds, I think I've seen in an interview, he was saying the same thing. It was just like, he wouldn't really feel like he was just kind of like he didn't connect with the song. And even when he played live at Paisley Park, I guess it was on the New Year's Eve, it was like the same type of thing. It it's like he wasn't really kind of getting comfortable with the material or getting comfortable with what was going on.
And I think what might have happened is if he had time with him to grow and make it organic,
right?
They probably would have found something. I think Prince was great at that. You know, whether it's bringing Shaka Khan in or Larry Graham and finding their music and things like this. But the issue with Prince oftentimes is no matter what he wrote for most people, it still was Prince. You know, it still was a very Prince song. I think that's one of the reasons I enjoyed the fact that the Bangles re-recorded Manic Monday, because they added their thing to it. So it was no longer just a Prince song. It was Banglified, as they said, and they made it into their own pop hit. And it's a great song. But again, made his own competition because Prince was at number 1, I think, with The Kiss, and the Bangles are at number 2 with that. Okay, so he could have easily missed out on being number 1 because of another song he did. That's how he created his own competition, which is crazy because most artists would try to get away from competition. But I think he understood that there's going to be a artistic freedom to giving music to people and probably a financial freedom for the money that would be made from making a hit for somebody else. So he was a smart man when it came to that. But how many people create their own, create the people that are going to be challenging them? But I think what they did is they challenged him to be better. And I think his record shows that.
All right. Last quick tidbit, then we're going to cut you loose. Is this one I found really, it literally stopped me in my tracks when I read that Nirvana and Foo Fighters, Pat Smear is a huge Prince fan. Mm-hmm. And he actually wanted to be in a Prince video for Raspberry Beret. He went to dance on the video, and apparently they were like, "No, you're not great. Hit the road." And he's walking out of the studio dejected, and Prince's bodyguard and Prince stop him and say, "Prince likes your hair. Come back in the video." So that is Pat Smear from Nirvana and also Foo Fighters, which you may, if you've ever seen he's got super short.
Right. He had really long hair back then, almost dreads, I think.
Right.
It was. Yeah.
But there he is right there. Pat Smear from Foo Fighters and of course Nirvana is in Raspberry Beret video. And not a lot of people know that, but I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for this amazing book right friggin' here. Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times era studio sessions. And let me just tell you, I had shown this before, but I will show it again. I will let me make myself huge for a second. Look at all those bookmarks of all those tidbits. Literally, I could have had 100 tidbits, but I only covered about a half a dozen of them to kind of give you an idea of how many times I literally had to stop and just Duane, as I said at the beginning of the show, you have created lightning in a bottle, not once, but twice. And I think your dog will agree with it.
My dog totally agrees with you. My dog totally, he's like, yeah, my dog is totally agreeing with you. He's saying, Horton. That's what the dog's saying.
And we've put the link up here a few times to allow you to pre-order it, where you can actually pre-order it. And obviously you can also go on DuaneTudahl.com and you can actually let me see if I can put this up here real quick in case you guys can't spell that. But it's if you go to DuaneTudahl.com, you can actually order the book and actually get it. You can probably get it autographed as well, right? Correct? Is that still?
Yes. You get it autographed and you can get it personalized. Hey, look at that! If anybody, people in the radio are missing out on all the good stuff here.
I know, right?
I got to put in the W. Okay,
there it is. Yes, DuaneTudahl.com is DuaneTudahl.com. Look it up on Amazon. You can get the spelling if you can't remember it. Tudahl is very difficult to spell, so I don't expect people to be memorizing that. But yeah, you can go there to my website. You can order a book. If you're going to order it international, let me tell you right now, the international postage rates are really extreme. And I would just suggest don't do it. But it's, if you want to, great. But domestically, it's a lot easier. I feel always bad that the cost of shipping something is so expensive. You can buy it locally. I'm hoping maybe one day I can do bookmarks, book plates, where I could just sign a book plate and mail that to people. Be a lot cheaper. I just haven't been able to do it yet. But I will tell you, if you do order it on my website, you do get a bookmark, a unique bookmark that has some information on it, like we did with the Purple Rain book. Yep. I try to make sure there's a nice little bookmark with these things.
This is the kind of bookmark that you would get.
They are. Yes.
Well, that's the Prince of Purple Rain Era studio sessions that I actually have.
Exactly. And show me the other side. The other side.
Sorry.
See, there you are.
I guess I probably should make myself big.
Yeah, exactly. Make yourself big.
So you can actually see this. So there's the bookmark. It's got some reviews, and obviously it's got the very, very cool graphic. And then of course the other side has, hey, look me over. Tell me, do you like what you see? And of course,
and I want to make sure I mention this. The bookmarks and the cover are designed by a guy named Rev, who is one of the best artists I know that does this stuff. He and I talk about what we want the cover to look like, and I give him the elements, and he goes to town, and he just does such beautiful work. I mean, really spectacular work. The picture on the cover of the first book is Prince at his rockin' best, got this pick up in the air and screaming. The picture on the second book, as you see, is Prince a little more intimate and a little more contemplative. And I think that's what I wanted, because this book is a more personal story. It's not Ness, the big rock star. It's this guy who is working really hard, but focused and kind of looking inside himself. And I think that his lyrics reflect that. I think that his music and the course of these 2 years in the book sort of reflect that. It's kind of a quieter, more personal and introspective Prince. And I think that's why Sign of the Times is so good, is because Prince was taking the time to be that detailed and that intimate and that revealing. Personal. And so I hope the cover reflects that. And the cover also, if you look closely, will have a little bit of the Housequake work order and lyrics, or handwritten set list from one of his shows. That kind of stuff is what Rev will put into these things. And the other thing I want to make sure is I thank the people that really, I said this before, but the people that help me with this stuff, they are just so is the people that work on Prince.org. Some of their people there helping me, but there's people that really help me when it comes to the research of this, as Yost Matthews, Cameron Gilreath, D'Angelo Duff, Scott Bogan, Thomas DeBruin, Craig Mortimer Zika. These people are people that I talk to almost every day when it comes to bouncing ideas off, and the amount of knowledge these guys have it makes the book to me better. It makes Prince relatable in many ways, because they are able to kind of find things that I may have missed, and I really am grateful to them and to everybody that does research for this stuff. Whether it's people that are helping me, it's these people make it fun. And I love them real dearly, and I'm grateful to all the people that have helped on this stuff, because I know I couldn't do this myself. And this is, Elias says, I play Starfish in my classroom at all times. I've done a lesson about it, and my students love it. That's great, Olga. Oh, by the way,
Olga, let me ask you a question. Olga, have you already ordered the book, or have you already ordered the book? Olga, let me know if you already ordered the book. Let me know if you have. Who has not ordered the book here? Let's do this. Who has not ordered the book? I'm curious as to who has ordered the book and who has not ordered the book. If you have not ordered the book, let me know.
I will tell you, Olga has ordered the book, because she's one of the first ones that ordered it. And she is listed, I will tell you right now, on page 671 and page 677. So that's Olga. I get the whole book memorized.
Elena Micah has not ordered it yet.
Who?
Grigo has not ordered it yet.
What?
Sanders has not ordered it yet.
What? Can't believe this.
All right, so we've got it, and people. Aaron has not ordered it yet.
What?
Sue has not ordered it yet. Like, all these people have not ordered it yet. So let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick somebody here. And somebody who has not won something before. Aaron Frigo, I know that she has not. I know. Yes, Aaron's amazing.
Yes.
Erin's. I love Erin. She gives great hugs too. Erin, send me your address to my email, and I'm going to send you a copy of the book. Matter of fact, it will be this one right here that I just got today or yesterday. I actually got it yesterday from the
publisher.
Hello.
Oh, we lost
just
him.
me now.
Nope,
Hey, how's it going?
I was going to say,
there we are.
You and I'll be taking over this show.
Yeah.
So I just got it.
Chris was just fired.
Official copy of the book.
Can't give that away.
What's the name of the publisher? That's Roman and Littlefield going.
Yes.
You're out of here. This book does not go on sale until June 10th. What the hell are you doing?
Exactly.
Erin,
your career is over.
Email me your address to shout@funkatopia.com, and I'm going to send you, Erin, I'm going to send you a book. So there's that.
That's great. See, and she's not even saying thank you, man. That's
No, she did.
She will.
See, that's good. Put that on this. She's great. And as funny is so many people asking questions are people I know of through Facebook and are in the the group that we have for the book and things like this. It's just nice. It's a big family. And I know some of these people and I'll see them at Celebration and they'll come up and give me a hug pre-COVID. They'll probably rub elbows at post-COVID. But it's just nice to see these people and know that they're excited. And some of these people have been very excited about these things coming out and the support and so many things. I'll sign on in the middle of the night and somebody will say, "Hey, you up?" Oh man, yeah. But I like to talk to these people. And sometimes I have to say, I'm writing, but I would love to talk to you. But it's the best knowing that there's people out there that are excited about this and not just excited because it's my book, but excited that this is about Prince and that there's a chance to get Prince's story out there to the next generation. I love that.
As I mentioned, it is an honor to have you on the show. You are, you're one of the, a senior archivist for the estate. You've done amazing work with both of these books. For those of you who have maybe ordered this book but still have not gotten the first one, please get both of these books. Are absolutely just amazing. They're so fantastically well written. So much work goes into it, and I can't praise you enough for this. There's a reason why. First off, Rolling Stone does not give 5 stars to Jack, and a matter of fact, I don't think they even gave 5 stars to Purple Rain when it came out.
Wow.
So that all being said, you have got a well-deserved 5 stars from Rolling Stone, obviously Germany, but United States hasn't read it yet. They're waiting till.
Yeah. Get it out here, man.
That's all there is to it. But
I'm moving to Germany. I'll be a hero over there.
Yeah.
Me and Hasselhoff will be big over there.
Yes.
This is going to be great.
Tour. On top of the wall and be overly dramatic. But I can't say it enough. It's an honor, always an honor to have you on.
Thank you, man. It's great. You're a great friend of mine, and you bring so much to this, and you bring so much passion to this. I love what you do, and it's nice to be a part of this. And I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while. And I've been many times over the past year I had to say I can't because I just except for your birthday, I was like, okay, I'll come on for your birthday because I owe you that. But I've been, when I'm writing and stuff like this, I apologize that I can't be as out there and fun and playful because I have deadlines and people beating me with sticks to make sure I get this thing done. So.
One last question.
Oh no.
Yeah, this is one last question, and it may be a loaded question. And I know this book is not out yet, but are you even thinking about the next book and whether it's going to go forwards or backwards?
I'm sorry, I can't. There must be sunspots or something like that, but I'm losing you. This is a hard. The answer to that is. And that's as honest
exactly what
the most important thing I don't want to make sure I on this thing because it's very, and that really sums it up because I think that's, one more important, here's the thing, and do not forget this thing. I am so glad I got that out and off my chest because I feel like a weight has been lifted from what it's very. Thank you, man, for giving me the avenue to talk about this. And the other thing is about this. Oh, so the people on radio can't understand that I'm.
Well, we all agree. And I've been there, man. So totally been there. I have been there.
No, I'll tell you the truth. If this book does well, and I think that people enjoy this, I've already started thinking about book 3, and I would like to go forward, because this book kind of ends with a cliffhanger, and it would be uncool of me not to continue. Not that I don't mind being uncool, but I want to continue. It's a great story, and if I do the next book, it'd probably be 87, 88, and it would cover Love Sexy, Black Album, Silent Times Tour, Love Sexy Tour, and maybe even go into 89. Maybe I'll do add Batman to this, and kind of round out the 80s with that. I had to see. Basically, what I need to do is see what the story is, and also the other thing is if I can supply enough information about this. That's very important to me, and because I want to make sure that I've done 2 books I'm very proud of. I don't want to kind of slap something together just to get a 3rd book out there. If I have enough information, enough good stories, and enough things to add to it, I would love to. I mean, you had mentioned before that my work with the estate, but I really want to stress that I don't ever advertise that I work for the estate. The reason why people know is because I do the liner notes for some of these other albums, but you'll never see any advertisement for my book or anything like that I've worked for the estate. I want to make sure that there are 2 very specific things, that the book is the book and my job is my job. And I really want to make sure that people know what I do now, but it wasn't that I don't want to lead with that. I think my book is my brand, and I like that. And the book got me that job. So my book is important that I make sure I maintain the purity of that. So if that makes sense, I hope that it does.
While you do refuse to cross-pollinate things, I really would love to see both of your books in the Paisley Park stores.
I think that's happening.
That would be
and I think they might be selling my book at Paisley Park, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
We're working on that right now. I think that they've been very, obviously there's a synergy to I'm talking about Prince, and they're trying to keep the lights on and making sure that they're giving the ultimate Prince experience with this. And so it's flattering that they want to have the book in there. So I have to admit, I get giddy when I walk into a Barnes and Noble or Borders or Electric Fetus and see the book in there. I mean, my daughter, she sees the book and she's like, "That's my dad's book," and I think that's the coolest thing. I mean, I think as much as everything else is important to me, having my daughter go, "That's my dad's book," that's pretty cool. All of a sudden, when your daughter looks at you at what you're doing and is very proud of you. That's something. And I've said this before, but I found a way to. We all find things in life that we find a job to feed our family, but by doing books like this and things like that, I found a way to feed my soul. And I think that's something that we all look for, and we all want to feel like we make a difference. And Prince made a difference to. I pretty much guarantee everybody watching this can say Prince changed their life, and Prince made their life better. And if I can give back a little bit of that magical part of the experience, because with Prince, it was always we're giving. We're getting. He's giving us gifts, giving us gifts. And those of us who were alive during his big time, we're living that in real time, an album a year and the B-sides. And it was like we all got that. And when Prince passed, it was a family member to all of us. And I think a lot of us didn't realize how important Prince was until we saw the world light up purple and how it connected. I mean, you and I became friends after Prince passed. And I think that if I found a way to, I'm a nerd who figured out a few fun things to tell people. Even my dog agrees with that. He's all about me being a nerd. And I found that I found a way to give back to I got it. It's something that's important to me to be able to give back to friends and Prince and just say, I really liked what you did, man, and thank you. And that's how I feel about Prince. And that's how I feel about a lot of you guys who are doing these podcasts and radio shows, is you guys give so much of your time and so much energy. It's not just you showing up for 2 or 3 hours doing this stuff. Every week you're planning this stuff, and you're doing it because it's in your heart. And I think that's why we all do this. And it's not, we wouldn't do this about something that was something we didn't love. And it's an honor to be on your show and to be your friend. So,
well, it's an honor to have you as a friend, and it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you.
It
works out well.
Yes, it's and that's the thing I like about the book is it's a respectable, it's based on facts and direct quotes, not speculation or anything. It's all.
And I imagine there's going to be times and there's little details that may have gotten wrong or things. When the first book comes out, it's sort of like a peer review. So there's going to be times that people write me and say, you got a spelling here wrong, or it's 250,000 words. There's going to be an occasional word that's
right, yeah, that's
fine. And that's going to happen. And what I like is I don't ask people to do this, but people will write to me and say, I read this. I noticed this detail it could be, and so when I do the paperbacks, I will often clean up the little things and make sure it's as accurate as possible, because I want the thing to be historically important. And I hope so. I really hope so. I hope that people enjoy this and learn something about Prince and respect his work ethic and the legacy that he's created. I think that's important to me. So
I felt like it gave me an opportunity to really, because my connection with him has always been through the music, and this really showed me just how much work he put into the music, and showed me just another side of who he was. And that's, like I said about the other books, you read those other books and they're all like, oh, they went to this hotel, they just trashed this hotel or whatever. This is really telling me who Prince was. Yeah. He was all about the music and creating that connection with people through his music. And that's what I love about the book. I'm still reading it, but I'm just enjoying it so much.
If somebody wants to know what's in the book, they can go to my website, which is DuaneTudahl.com, DuaneTudahl.com, and they can download the first chapter for free. Just put your email in and we'll send you the first chapter. And that's kind of cool because you get an idea. He's on the Purple Rain tour and he's recording the Sheila E.'s second album, and you just see this guy is just nonstop, and it's the whole book is like that. People have said they had to put the book down because they're like, oh my God, I'm tired because of how hard he's working. And it kind of, it really will up your game. And I think artists should read it, and I think musicians should read it to understand how the master did this. This is the best that there was. Did this. This is what he did, and this is how he filled his time with music. And if you want what he had, you got to work for it. And he worked for it. And wasn't magical. It wasn't, a gift from God. He worked it. He rehearsed. He practiced. He played. He did all the work possible to make himself and his band better. And that was his gift to us. The sacrifices he did to get us the best things possible musically. And we're all going to benefit from that for generations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, Duane Tudahl, author of the brand new book, Prince and the Parade, Inside the Times Era Studio Sessions, 1985 and 1986. And get it, absolutely, get it ASAP. As a matter of fact, I'll put up the pre-order link one more time. You've got the DuaneTudahl.com URL on the bottom. If you want to get the first 100 pages for free, all you got to do is go in there to get the email.
First chapter, not 100 pages. First chapter.
First chapter.
I don't want somebody going, that guy is supposed to get 100 pages for free.
Which was actually fantastic for our last album chat that we did for the Sheila E. album, because I had a bunch of extra background stories for the tracks. And now I've got to redo some of my album chats because there's so much more. It's ridiculous. You've messed me up now forever.
But people have asked me to make these into 1,000-page books. And I'm like, oh, you guys are trying to kill me.
Yes.
Seriously. This is 700 pages. It hurts to lift it. So I back.
I'm looking forward to the Kindle version also.
A lot later. A lot later. Yes, a lot later. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Dwayne, thank you so much.
Man. Thank you, man. This is great. This is even more fun than I thought it'd be. Thank you, guys.
Prince Symposium tomorrow.
Oh, yes. I'm one of the speakers. I think there's, I could look at the list, but I think D'Angela Duff is speaking tomorrow. Oh, let me look it up real quick. I got it on my desktop. 1 second here. While I'm here, I'll talk to you guys, Let's see who's doing tomorrow. Let's see.
Rodney.
What's Rodney saying now?
Yes.
Let's see who we got talking tomorrow. We have D'Angela Duff. Let me see this. Cassie Ritchie. I don't know the person. Robin Shumays, Erica Thompson, me, Keith Corson, Dr. Karen Turman, and Dr. Sherry Wine are tomorrow. I don't have the people after that, but
this is an online event.
Yeah, it's an online event. It's called the 78 through 88 Prince Conference, and you can look that up, Google that. I'm speaking about Prince's life in his lyrics, but there's a lot of different people doing different.
That one is put on by the Minnesota.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I did some stuff with them before, but I don't know if it's the same group that's doing it. I do symposiums occasionally. They're a lot of fun. But this one, I'm going to be talking about some of the stuff. I'll mention some of the stuff we talked about tonight. But it's more about the lyrics and what his lyrics were in his music that were kind of conveying his story. For a guy that didn't talk much, he was expressing a lot in his music. So I'm sorry, we've said goodbye 3 times. And there's thank you. So, thank you.
Prince78-88.com if you want to check out. Thank you, Hoffler.
Yes, okay,
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. We keep saying goodbye, but I don't want to leave, man.
Party.
So sweet. Well, let's do this again sometime. This is great. Yeah, I always enjoy this thing. So a lot of fun. So, okay.
Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Now. All right.
Bye, guys.
Later, Dwayne.
Bye.
Bye.